Hello, future Boilermakers, and welcome to our YouTube live broadcast focused on the student experience here at the Polytechnic Institute of Purdue University. My name is Ryne Kerchner, and I'm the Associate Director of Recruitment here for the Polytechnic. And I first want to congratulate all of our admitted students who are watching this broadcast tonight, who have been admitted to one of our majors here at the Polytechnic. And we're so glad you could join us for our panel discussion to give you some insight about what it's like to be a Boilermaker here at Purdue. We have 6 current Polytechnic students who are our panelists tonight, and we'll have them introduce themselves here in a minute. We also have several topics and questions that we prepared ahead of time to ask them and get their insight and experience about. But we also want to know what you want to know, what you're wondering about the Purdue experience here. So you can submit questions in the YouTube chat window by signing into your Google account and typing them in there. John O'Malley, our technical director, and I will be keeping an eye on that chat and bringing some questions from that to our panelists in addition to the questions we already have prepared. If we don't get to your chat tonight or your question tonight, that's okay. We can follow up with us with our email, techrecruit@purdue.edu, and we'll respond to that later on. And just kind of give you a heads up, we will be touching on some academic experiences, just about courses and things like that, what they're doing in their projects and labs and whatnot. But we're not going to go too deep into like credit transferring and plans of study and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure you're going to have some great questions about that, and we want to answer those. So again, that's where that techrecruit@purdue.edu email address is going to be helpful. So send us an email about those types of things, and we'll be sure to get that information to you later on. So with that, I'll have our panelists introduce themselves with their name, their grade, their classification here so far, where you're from, and the major that you're in as well. So we'll start out with Claire.
Hi, everybody. My name is Claire Settlemyre. I'm currently a junior here in computer graphics technology. And then specifically, I'm in building information modeling within that. And I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana.
All right, thank you, Claire. Next up, Daniel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel. I'm a first-year student. I'm majoring in aviation management. I'm also a current sophomore, and I'm from Fremont, California.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Next up, Evan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Evan Holland, and I am a sophomore majoring in computer and information technology, and I am from Crown Point, Indiana, kind of up by Chicago.
All right, thanks, Evan. Next up, Jacob.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. My name is Jacob Bartholome. I am a senior in professional flight technology from Muncie, Indiana.
Great, thank you. Next up, Leah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leah, and I am a senior pursuing a dual degree in cybersecurity and law and society with minors in English and Spanish, and I'm from Kingston, Jamaica.
Man, all that kind of just scared me real quick with everything you're doing, Leah. And last but certainly not least, Trevor.
Hi, everybody. My name is Trevor Craig. I am a junior studying construction management with a minor in organizational leadership and a certificate in entrepreneurship, and I am from Fort Wayne, Indiana.
All right, Trevor's right there with you, doing a whole bunch of stuff too. Awesome. So our first question tonight, just kind of give our viewers a sense of, how you found the Polytechnic and decided on your major. We'll start with that. What made you come here to Purdue and pursue the major that you're in? And we'll go backwards this time. So Trevor, we'll start with you and go backwards from our introduction list.
I picked construction management because when I applied to Purdue, I actually did not get into engineering, and Purdue was like, would you like to pick a different major? And my dad graduated from Purdue with a degree in mechanical engineering, and he came to me and he was like, they have this degree called construction management. Like, if I had known about this, I would have done this. And I was like, okay, you know what, maybe. So I came and I toured and met with advisors in the construction management department, and I actually then met with the engineering as well to see if I wanted to just waitlist. And at the end of the day, I was like, this is where I want to be. The people were just so welcoming and accepting of like me and just wanted to know me, and they all got to know my name and everything. And at the end of the day, I think I am so much better off in the Polytechnic construction management than I am in engineering because of the whole hands-on learning aspect.
All right, awesome. And then Leah, same question for you.
So when I visited Purdue, one of the first thing I noticed is the emphasis that they place on balance. I'm able to, participate in all the activities and club sports that I want, while also getting a really good academic aspect, which I think is really nice. And I actually started in the College of Liberal Arts. So at first, when I first came in, I only had law and society. And then because a lot of my core requirements, I was in classes with people in different majors. And also I joined a club sport, tennis. And then one of my good friends, he was in computer and information technology. And then he was telling me about it. And I've always liked computers. So then I spoke to my advisor about adding that as a minor. So I started out with it as a minor. And then last year, when I was supposed to be applying to law school, I just decided I did not want to go to law school immediately. So then I added cybersecurity. I switched it from a minor to a major. And then now I have this, dual perspective of being in two different colleges, which is really nice. And the fact that Purdue has facilitated that, I wouldn't say easily because I'm in 21 credits, but they have facilitated it rather seamlessly, I think is indicative of the kind of school that Purdue is and strives to be. So I feel like I made a good choice.
All right, awesome. Thank you. And then back to Jacob.
So I took an interest in aviation in high school, and I was kind of a procrastinator as a student, and came time to decide where I wanted to go for college and what I wanted to study. And so started kind of looking around online and found out that professional flight was a major that you could go to school for. And so I started looking at schools that did that, and found Purdue, which was in state, which was nice for me, and came and did a tour. And just like a couple of others have already said, the faculty and staff are just so welcoming. They wanted to get to know you. They wanted you to feel welcomed, wanted you to come to Purdue. And so after my tour and seeing all the facilities that we had and the opportunities that the Polytechnic had, it was just at that point, it was a matter of waiting to see if I got in. And once I got in, my decision was made. I didn't even go look anywhere else.
All right, that's awesome. We gave you that good of an impression. All right, and then Daniel, for you, what brought you to aviation management?
Yeah, so same as Jacob, I always had a passion for aviation. So when I was in my sophomore year in high school, I had a friend who was an upperclassman, and he was already going to Purdue. He had a major in aviation management, and on his Facebook, he always posted Purdue aviation related things. So I got interested. I messaged him, and he started telling me more about why he applied to Purdue, about the major, aviation management. So I decided to do my own research on Purdue. And I really realized that there's so many opportunities here at Purdue, which is also one of the reasons why I chose to come to the Polytechnic, because there's so many other aviation schools out there. But I think Purdue really stands out in being recognized as a world-class educator in terms of aviation.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Daniel. And Evan, for you, what brought you here?
Yeah, I was an in-state student, so I'm from Indiana, and I was dead set on going out of state. There was no way I was going to any Indiana colleges. And so I was doing all my visits out of state. And then one day in April, my mom was trying to convince me just to visit Purdue to say I did it. And so I did it just mainly to get out of a day of high school classes. And when I came down to Purdue and visited, I absolutely, I came in like a bad mood thinking like, I'm not going to go here anyway. Why am I here? And by the end of the day, I was ready to commit. Just the interactions I had that day, I actually got to see the program, talk with professors, talk with advisors, and I got to see that hands-on experience that you get here at the Polytechnic. And that was like nothing I had ever seen before. So I immediately decided that this is the place where I want to be. It's that hands-on style of learning. I was talking to the student ambassadors that day and seeing like all the career options they had lined up by the end of their junior year, because companies were so in love with that hands-on style experience that they all had. And I just knew that if I go to Purdue and if I go to that Polytechnic, I'm going to have a successful career. And so that's why I ended up at Purdue in state, but absolutely loving it.
All right, that's great. And glad we convinced you just by coming here and changed your mood that day, huh?
Oh, yes.
All right, thanks. And then Claire, for you, what brought you here to this major in BIM?
Yeah, so since high school, I've really been developing my love for construction. So I didn't know quite what was all out there. So I came to Purdue originally in the engineering program. And so my freshman year wasn't quite enjoying what I was doing. But I thought, next year I'll be in my specific civil engineering and it'll get better. But it for me didn't. I really wanted more of a hands-on application, and I really wanted to work with CAD. So I found out within the Polytechnic, there was this computer graphics technology program, specifically like with computer graphics for construction. And so I went and met with an advisor, and I was having a really hard time. And I just told him, you know, like, I don't feel like I'm in the right area. I think this is much more what I'd like. And he was just so helpful and like so friendly. He was like, if you don't feel like what you're doing now is right for you, it's okay to switch your major. Even like second semester, it was the second semester sophomore year I started in my new program. So I was also worried about being late, but he's helped me work out my schedule with summer classes and everything to still graduate on time. And he just really made me feel like welcomed in the Polytechnic. And I knew like this is the place where I belong.
All right, it's definitely a common theme here of everybody finding faculty, staff who are welcoming and inviting to feel part of the community here. So who have been some of the faculty members that have really connected with you or you've connected with in classes or labs? And Evan, we'll start with you for that question.
Yeah, absolutely. I have never had a bad experience with the professor. Every professor here is so helpful. They all want you to succeed, right? We're all Purdue Boilermakers. If they're giving you this degree, they want to make sure you know your stuff. And so if you're struggling in class, they'll like make appointments with you. You can go to office hours with them. And so some specific faculty members and professors that I've had really good interactions with was my technology architecture professor, Professor Hands. And so a lot of CIT students get exposure to her right away because she teaches a class freshman year. She was really helpful, especially in the move to kind of an online switchover, because I had her back in March 2020. She was so helpful with that whole process. And then also I do research with another professor here on campus in the theater department, and I try and combine like technology and theater, and just the network of professors that led me to that opportunity was absolutely incredible. Like it started with a Polytechnic professor who connected me with someone else and connected me with someone else. And so the professors here just want to give you opportunities and let you succeed.
That's awesome. And I'm going to turn it over to Leah for this question as well, because you said 21 credits and in 2 different colleges doing this. So give us kind of an understanding of where your faculty are and how they help support you, especially and your advisors too, kind of working with you on your multiple pursuits.
Yeah, so I entered this semester as senior, but having pretty much no idea what I wanted to do with my life, which as a senior is probably not the best position to be in. But yeah, last semester the beginning of last semester I was pretty bent on going to law school, and then I saw the application process for that, and mentally I didn't really want to do that, so that's why I decided to add cybersecurity as a major, and then focus a bit more to see what I could do with that. And eventually, through talking to my advisors in both liberal arts and cybersecurity, it was really nice. I eventually came to the conclusion that I want to become an cybersecurity lawyer. So now that they have that in mind, they were helpful in the beginning and in general, but now that they know that, they helped me narrow down what I want to be. They've given me a lot more options class-wise. So a lot of the classes I take, even in liberal arts and cybersecurity, I can see the combination and the real-world application, and I feel like, especially in cybersecurity, the plan of study is very specific because they want to make sure that you're not just doing these classes, but you're understanding what you're doing and how it applies to the real world. So one of the best professors I've had is Professor Deadman, and he taught CIT 242, I think. It was like maybe a networking class, I'm not sure. And he was a really good professor because, again, one thing that helped me, I started out in liberal arts. Cybersecurity is a lot more math that I'm used to and coding. So joining office hours, which are usually held weekly, has helped me immensely in both actually liberal arts and Polytechnic, but more Polytechnic because I didn't have that background. So the fact that we don't just have the teachers, but we have multiple teachers' assistants, we can meet with either in person or virtually weekly, has been incredibly helpful. And I even had a TA, his office hours were supposed to be an hour, and I had a lab, and he stayed on the call with me for about 4 or 5 hours, which was really, really nice. And I got my lab done. So it just shows, that they actually care about you. You just have to make the effort to, show that you are interested, because there's so many resources at Purdue for you to get help. It's just you have to make sure that you're utilizing them. And I found that, again, because I'm in 21 credits, they are always very understanding of the fact that my workload is a lot heavier, and it might take a little bit more for me to be successful in all my classes. And again, they're very accepting, very welcoming of that. And yeah, they help me out a lot on both sides.
All right, that's awesome. I'm going to turn it over to Trevor. Kind of a different question about just to get a sense. You mentioned the hands-on, and I think we'll turn it over to Claire as well after Trevor's done. But give us some examples of your lab projects and classes that you've had within your major.
Yeah, so construction management, obviously the biggest hands-on lab that we have is the one second semester freshman year, where we actually go in the construction lab and we build. They give us hammers and nails and saws and even a crane. I don't know why they give us college kids a crane and tell us to just do it, but they trust us apparently. And so we actually go in and we build a wood structure so that we can learn how to build walls and windows and even do shingles and all that stuff. And then we do a 2-story steel structure, which is when we get to run the crane and stuff. And the whole thing is so that we can learn, obviously, safety, but then also understanding what our laborers will do one day. It's not exactly that we're going to do this forever, but it's so that when my worker comes to me and says, I can't do this, it's not possible, I can understand why. So they teach us everything from how to measure a board to how to run a crane and actually place columns, which is really cool. And then when we get farther into our program, we learn how to use the softwares for scheduling and estimating, and all that kind of stuff. So we go to lab and we learn it, and then we go to lecture and we go to lecture and we learn it, and then we go to lab and we physically apply it, which I think is absolutely awesome to be able to see how the things I'm learning actually are used in the real world.
I think it's good to get that hands-on as well as the management side. Obviously, with your major, it's really important to see both sides of things. So that's really good. And then Claire, same question for you. Kind of what kind of labs and projects do you work on?
Yeah, so I kind of do the background pre-work of what Trevor does. So I am a building information modeling major, so I will take the building and model it from the ground up for people in the construction field. And so that way, when like Trevor's team's out there and they're building something in the future, she'd call me and be like, hey, we're like, this doesn't seem right. And I can go into the model and like tell if, maybe something was placed wrong in the field, maybe they didn't get enough of some material. So we can like figure all that out from the model standpoint. And then it's also about like scheduling. Like Trevor mentioned, the goal of my job is to make it as easy on them as possible, and also to like speed up things if I can. So if we model out the building, hopefully we'll have really concise blueprints and there will be less issues in the field later on. But then outside of my direct major, I've also been able to take a VR class. So I got to use a like Oculus headset and design my own programs, which is something I'd like to use in the future with my field someday out in the construction field. And a lot more like hands-on labs, a lot of like tech programming for me, but it really shows how it'll incorporate into my future job as well.
No, that's great. I think kind of just really in general for all the Polytechnic programs and classes and labs, it's really trying to mimic the experience of what you'll see out in the real world in those projects so that you're prepared for those when you get out into your internships and then eventually into your career as well. Real quick, I got a couple questions that I want to ask from our chat. And Daniel, we'll start with you since you're finishing up your first year. Really first question is about Virtual STAR, Summer Transition Advising and Registration. What was that experience like working with your advisor, kind of getting prepared for the fall semester? How did that process go in that scheduling for your classes?
Yeah, definitely. So for V-Stars, basically you finish a series of online modules and you watch videos, read articles, basically discussing, the history of Purdue, what Purdue has to offer, all the facilities that are covered that Purdue has to offer, safety measures that Purdue has in place, and it also tells you a lot of like about the organizations and resources that Purdue also has to offer. So very useful information. I highly recommend that you go through that information and understand it. I remember when I did VSTAR, it didn't take long. They said it would take a couple of days to finish, but I finished it within a day. Most likely because it was like summer break, so I didn't really have much to do. And right after you finish your VSTAR, your advisor will know when you finish VSTAR. So your advisor will proactively reach out to you and schedule I think it was a Zoom meeting. I think there was like 4 or 5 other students in the Zoom meeting, and your advisor goes over your plan of study and all the requirements. If you have any questions about transferring credits or questions about classes that you want to take, they can definitely answer right there for you. So very informative, and I think it was a very smooth experience, and there was no hiccups along the way. Yeah.
All right, awesome. That's good to hear. Yeah, and we'll be doing Virtual Star again this summer. So like Daniel mentioned, the online modules, once you complete those, you'll hear from your advisor to set up a time to meet with them, talk about your goals, your interests. If you want to do double major, minor certificates, things like that, any credits you're going to bring in, transfer in, and they work with you on that, and then work on that registration process. So glad it went well for you, Daniel, and I think our advisors are pretty fantastic about making sure that the process is as smooth as possible too. Then I'm going to turn back over to Evan, because we also have some questions about Boiler Gold Rush, or we call it BGR, just to get what is that orientation program like? Because I think you are and are going to be a team leader again this summer for our students coming in.
Yes, I absolutely love BGR. I would say you have to do it if you're coming to Purdue. BGR, I'm going to use that term, it stands for Boiler Gold Rush, is the week before classes start. And so all freshmen who are participating will move into your residence hall. And so you get to move in early. You'll get to unpack all of your stuff, which is nice having that kind of separated from the start of classes, separate the two bits of crazy happening. And then you spend all week, I kind of describe it as summer camp for college students. It's so fun. There's so many activities. You'll go on fountain runs. You'll learn on all of our traditions here at the university. There's sessions on how to be successful academically. There's sessions on how to be successful in finding community here. And BGR is a great way to find like your first kind of group of friends here at college, because it's all of the freshmen from all over the world shoved together at the same exact time. Everyone's going to be looking for friends. Everyone's going to be looking to find that sense of belonging. And BGR is a great opportunity and a way to do that. And so if you're coming, you absolutely have to do that. I saw a question in the chat earlier about the difference between BGR and BGRI, which is our international version of BGR. This year, because of the move-in protocols we have to follow for COVID, they're planning on having those at the same time. And so they'll just be slightly different programming. So you might go to one event if you're in BGR and another event if you're in the international experience. But there's a lot of overlap. It's essentially the same thing. But yeah, I think like 90%, somewhere 80 to 90% of students who are coming to Purdue participate in BGR. And it's just, it's a great way to plug you into campus and get you excited. You're finally a college student and you're finally a Boilermaker. And so it's so awesome to be here.
So I think in another broadcast, there was another student who was going to be a BGR team leader. And Evan, I got to ask, do you know what your beacon is going to be this year?
Yes. So during the week of all of the team leaders, so those are the people who lead around a group of new incoming freshmen, so that way no one gets lost. We have these things we call beacons. And so this past year, my beacon was the volleyball from Castaway. I don't know if you've seen that movie. And so this coming year, I don't know what my beacon will be yet. I'm thinking it'll have to be something, funny, maybe a movie reference, maybe a Purdue tradition. But yeah, some of those can be pretty funny. Last year, there was someone made like a construction sign. And so it was like road work ahead, because that's a funny joke. Anyway.
Yeah, for those who don't know, there's always construction going on here at the university. I think that's what you're referencing, Evan.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just be ready for that. And a lot of it happens over the summer and hopefully will be done before you get here to campus as well. So I'm going to turn over to Trevor, ask about your learning community experience. We've had some different questions about learning communities. So tell us what learning communities you're in, what you did during that time. And I think Jacob, you were in one as well. We'll turn it over to you after that.
Yeah, so I actually was in two. I had to live in the one, and the other I was just a member of. I had to live in the Women in Technology one, which is all women within the Polytechnic. So like my roommate was an animation major, one of my friends across the hall was an aviation management major, I think. So all the majors within women within the Polytechnic, we all lived on the same floor together. And then I was part of the construction management one, which they all lived in the same building actually as the Women in Technology one. So we're all in the same building, but because there were men and women, we couldn't all live together. But we all had the same lab time together so that we had a familiar face. And that one actually made an effort to have us all do lunch together once a week. And even now as a junior, I still go back and we do lunch and like participate as the older people. But living learning communities, I think were actually a really great opportunity because, like Evan said, the first week is just all these freshmen and everyone wants to be friends. So you like move in with people who like, yes, I'm pretty sure if you move in on any just basic random floor, everyone's gonna be like, please be my friend. But you meet people on your floor who you already have a common like ground with, and you're gonna see them within Kanoy Hall. The Women in Technology also has a seminar class once a week where we had like a pilot come in and talk to us. We had an engineer come in and talk to us, all females, so that we could see like what was going on in the world and like opportunities for our jobs and stuff. And so I really think that it was a really good basis of just people that on the very first day when you feel like you're completely alone because there's tons of people around but you don't know anyone, it's nice to have just like a beginning base level. And the living learning community dorms, unsolicited advice, tend to be the better dorms. So if you want to live in some nicer dorms, especially like right now, I know the Women in Technology one is in the brand new Meredith building. So there's always that benefit too.
And Jacob, I think you were in the aviation learning community, is that right?
Yes. So I was in the aviation learning community my freshman year. The living portion of it was in McCutcheon Hall. I think it's been in Hillenbrand, but they usually try to put it in one of the closer dorms to the airport so that you can walk to the airport, walk to class, to your flight labs, anything like that, which is really nice. And then the learning portion of it was just a 1 credit hour, 1 semester, 1 credit hour class. And we met every other week. We met for class, and then on the off weeks we met for lunch. And they would bring in a guest speaker or somebody from the tower at the airport, IU Lifeline helicopter. We did all sorts of different things. We went and saw a movie together. It was called First Man. We did a tower tour, toured the Lifeline helicopter, went to the Red Bull Air Race, went and saw Grissom Air Force Base. It's just a lot of opportunities to get out and see different things in the industry, see what's going on, network with different people. They brought in current pilots and other aviation professionals that most of the time were Purdue grads. So we got to meet them and network with them. And then it's just a chance every week to go to class with the same people that you're going to be in the same classes with for the next 3.5 years. So the same faces and getting to know a lot of people around the airport was really nice.
All right, that's awesome. And just for everybody else on our panel, and I can see them here, just raise your hand, nod your head if you lived in residence halls during your freshman year. Okay, and then keep your hands raised if you had a random roommate. Okay. Just me and myself. I should be used to that by now. Leah, could you give us some advice about what it's like to have this new person that you've never met, maybe you sent some messages on Facebook or something, to live with? Give us some advice on how you manage that new relationship that you're living together.
Honestly, my greatest advice, and I feel like this is not Purdue specific, I just feel like once you're living with anybody random, I feel like if you can help it, you should try to get to know the person as best as possible. I know that I found out about the Facebook group where you could search for roommates. I found out about it very late, so most people had already had their own roommates. And then I just took the survey and I did the random roommate, and I don't think I was as detailed as I should have been. So my advice is to be more detailed, because I feel like that system only works if you allow it to work. And if you do not take it seriously, then again, this goes for anywhere at all. You will end up with someone that you just don't really know anything about, and you guys might not mesh. And it's very hard to, once you get placed with someone, to switch roommates unless it's something dire. My situation personally was not dire. It's just that the person that I was roomed with, we were just completely on opposite ends of the spectrum. We got along because I'm a very open-minded person. So I feel like you also need to know your personality. And if you're somebody who is very specific about the person you want to live with, then you need to be very, very detailed about your selection process, if that makes sense. So, I don't know, I know some people, from the group chat, they'd like go stalk the person on Instagram, talk to them, like multiple communication. If you're somebody, this is a person you're going to be living with for at least a semester. And if you like your stuff a certain way, you need to be very, very detailed in the entire process, the entirety of the process. If you feel like it's one of those situations where you want to be nice, but if you really do not believe that you and the person are going to mesh well, try and find somebody else. And I feel like that's just a lesson in life in that point also. Just keep looking until you find somebody, because the person, your right roommate, is there. I'm not saying that you guys are going to be best friends. You don't have to be best friends with your roommate, but it's just a really good opportunity to have a good start at having a friend. Maybe, after you guys are finished rooming, you never see the person again. I've never seen my freshman roommate ever since I roomed with her. I think that's okay. You're not going to be friends with everybody, but at least during freshman year, I had someone who had a similar experience to me. We got along pretty good. And again, I'm very open-minded, so that's why I could probably room with anybody. But if that's not you, put in the work to find someone that you like and that you like, and spend the time talking to them. It's so important to have that back and forth communication if you're going to live with someone for a semester.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make, is filling out that housing contract. If you're going to go with a random roommate, fill out those questions as accurately as you can. And like you mentioned, there is a Facebook group for admitted students if you wanted to look out for a roommate or try to find someone to request. Just a point of clarification about that. April 15th, so 2 days from now, is the deadline to actually request roommates. And when you fill out that housing contract, make sure you and your roommate are matching everything at the same level. So your rooming style preferences, your personality preferences, and obviously make sure you list the person correctly and they list you, to make sure that is as matched as best as possible. There's no guarantee roommates are going to be honored, but they try to do as best as they can. And then same thing for learning communities. The learning community application deadline is coming up on the 15th, and you still can apply later, but the likelihood of getting placed in those just goes down after that. So make sure you've filled out that housing contract and then get the application for the learning community in as well by the 15th. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to a different type of question. We've heard a little bit about how to get involved, or the BGR process, and I want to hear a little bit about what our students are involved in outside of the classroom, student organizations and clubs. So Claire, we'll start with you, and just give us a rundown of what kind of organizations you're involved in right now.
Yeah, so obviously I'm involved in the Polytech Ambassadors currently. I am also just recently, last weekend, was elected the secretary of the Society of Women Engineers at Purdue. So we're like a 700 people organization. So it's a very large organization. So that was really exciting for me. And then aside from that, I've been involved in the Building Information Modeling Club, which is not doing as much this semester with COVID. But it's definitely like a really fun time. But Society of Women Engineers and Polytech Ambassadors are my two biggest things that I do.
All right, awesome. And congrats on being elected secretary. That's fantastic. All right.
Thank you.
So what orgs are you involved in?
Yeah, sure. So I'm part of a few. So the first one is an aviation club. It's called the American Association of Airport Executives, or AAAE. Basically, what it is it's a professional networking opportunity. So we have a lot of guest speakers from aviation industry, a lot of which are Purdue graduates, and they talk about their careers. They talk about what the aviation industry has to offer, and we really get a good picture of what the industry is looking like, what kind of people they're looking for. It's a really great way to network. Other than that, I'm also a Polytechnic ambassador, obviously, and other than that, I'm also a Residence Hall Association senator. So I belong to the Residence Hall. Do is we plan events for a specific residence hall, and we also plan events campus wide with the Residence Hall Association. And the last one really isn't an organization, but I think you can find part-time jobs across campus. You can work at the co-rec or what we call the gym. You can also work in the dining courts. So I work as a student cook at Home Brand, and let me tell you, the food here is really good. We have 5 dining courts, and working as a student cook, you get free meals. It's a great way to talk with friends, great way to relax. Well, although the job does get tiring at times, but overall, it's a very great experience.
All right, that's great. And I actually did see a couple of questions in our YouTube chat about student employment. And yeah, there's lots of jobs on campus. Purdue Student Employment, there's a website for it, so you can see all the different positions that are out there. So if you wanted to get a part-time job to help, just finance any fun things that you want to do, go for it. All right, and then Evan, what are the orgs that you're involved in here?
Yeah, first of all, I have a job. So I work at the co-rec as a lifeguard. And so that's just a fun way to get a little extra spending cash. So that's fun. But I'm involved in a number of student organizations, obviously the Polytechnic ambassadors, but I'm also involved in BGR, which helps incoming students get connected to campus. So I love just, I guess, meeting new students. That's a trend I've noticed. And then I'm also involved on the Purdue Swim Club. That's a nice way to stay active. You're doing classes all day. Sometimes you just need to de-stress. And so going and hanging out with a bunch of people who have similar interests as you is really great. We hang out outside of the pool, at the pool. It was really one of the clubs that helped connect me and find a group of friends that I still hang out with a lot. Another club I'm involved in is the Association of IT Professionals. That is a club in the Polytechnic that focuses on creating industry-ready students. And so resume reviews, career fairs, practice interviews, or my favorite events they do are intern panels. And so they'll take students who have gone on internships and sit them in the front of the room, and then everyone just asks them questions about, like, how did you apply? Like, what was the interview like? What did you do there? And so it's really great just to network with people within technology, and try and find those connections and try and find, what are some ways where I can advance my career here. And so those organizations I love being a part of. And then, yeah, that job is also nice to have on campus to work part-time.
Yeah, and just to follow up on you're mentioning the AITP. It's a great professional organization, and there's typically at least 1 or 2 professional organizations, if not many more than that, related to each of our academic departments here in the Polytechnic. So definitely take a look at those online. You can see the student orgs that are available through Boiler Link, and really get a good sense of what you can do related to your field as well as outside of it, just more fun social things. And then we'll hear from all of our students what they're doing. And Jacob, what have you been involved in throughout your time here?
I usually tell incoming students, get as involved as you can, but be careful balancing being involved in academics. You're here for academics first. But I always tell people get involved in at least one club that is major oriented or department oriented, and then one that is not. So my major club that I chose was Triple P, it's Purdue Professional Pilots. And with COVID, we've mainly just been having guest speakers. Again, usually Purdue grads come in, Airline Pilots Association, they come in and talk to us. And then in non-COVID times, we go to airports and take different tours. So we've been up to Chicago O'Hare and toured United. We've been to Delta in Detroit and toured their hub there, Southwest up at O'Hare. So it's a lot of just getting out and seeing what the real world is going to look like in a few years for us. It's nice to be able to have those connections early and network as early as possible.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Make those connections and get out to the career fairs as well. And then Leah, what have you been involved in?
So I also, when I think my sophomore year, I was a BGR team leader. And then after that, I'm involved in club tennis. So it's a nice medium. I originally came to America to play tennis, and then I kept getting injured. So club tennis is like a nice way to, keep my level up, because a lot of the people in club tennis are graduate students who already played college tennis. So I still get a really high level of tennis without, the sacrificing my academics. And then I was also involved in college mentors for kids. And basically what we did is we basically take a bus to one of the local middle schools. And then I'd say we would just pretty much mentor at-risk kids. We just sit down with them, spend like 2 hours with them, see how their classes are going, try to give them like a stress-free environment for a couple of hours, because, we never know what's going on at their home. And then I'm also involved in the Law and Society Club, and they basically just bring a bunch of speakers who are involved in law enforcement or lawyers, to talk to us. And then there is a Caribbean Students Association, and I'm Jamaican, so I felt like I had to join, something related to that. And it's really nice because around here we have lots of cultural centers. So I know we have an Asian cultural center. We also have a Latino cultural center, and Black Cultural Center, and I think a couple more. And there are lots of organizations, if you're Jewish, there's a Jewish frat. There are many ways in which you can get involved related to your religion or ethnicity, which is nice. And then I'm in the CIT Council, which they just put on a bunch of events. And then I'm a Dean's Ambassador for the Polytechnic. And I am, sorry, this sounds like a lot, but yeah, I'm a Dean's Ambassador for Liberal Arts also. And then similar to Daniel, I worked at the CoRec as a personal trainer, and that was a really nice job because I took a class at the CoRec. It was a free class. And then because, I was able to build that rapport with the head personal trainers pretty much, they got to know me. So it's a really good way in which I just got hired on the spot pretty much, because it was 3 months of me in this class with them. And then all I had to do was pass, the standardized test, like the universal worldwide test, and then pass their test. And then I got hired, which was nice. And yeah, that's it, I think.
So we have our own little chat going here in our WebEx meeting, and Evan asked Leah, do you even sleep? Because with 2 majors and a couple minors and all of that going on, I don't know how you do it, Leah. That's just amazing and just baffling. Also, I want to point out, college ventures for kids. I did that when I was an undergrad at Butler University, so that's awesome. Good job. All right, and then Trevor, for your orgs, what are you involved in?
Well, I'm not breaking my back like Leah is, so I don't know how she's doing that. I think I'm struggling. I am obviously a Polytechnic ambassador. I'm also the president of the Women in Construction Management Club. I just got elected for my 2nd year next year. We bring awareness to the fact that women are here and we can do it just as well as everyone else. There's only about 1% of women in construction management, or in construction in general. So that's kind of, we just provide a community. We do have men who are part of our club. I'm also a member of the National Society of Healthcare Engineers. It's a long one. That's for my concentration in construction management. I have a healthcare concentration. I used to be a Witty Sisters mentor, so I would mentor freshmen in the construction management major. And I am also a Polytechnic High School mentor. So I am paired up with a student who's graduating from the Polytechnic High School in Indianapolis. And my job is to just help them transition through their the end of their senior year and through their freshman year. So yeah, I think that's everything. Oh, I have a co-op too. I forgot. I work from school. Can't believe I forgot that. My list is not nearly as long. Yeah, I have a co-op, so I work for my internship from school. And I just do estimating for them part-time.
All right. Wow. You guys are just amazing doing all these awesome things, getting so involved. That's just really cool. I'm just blown away. Anyway, so we've seen some different questions, and one thing I definitely wanted to talk about tonight was internships and opportunities and how you found them. So we'll kind of give another rundown through our panelists here to see what they've done and how they found those opportunities. So Claire, we'll start with you. What internships have you had? Do you have another one coming up this summer? And how did you find those opportunities as well?
Yeah, so technically, this will be my fourth internship this summer, but two of which were in high school. So my sophomore year, so like last summer, I found an internship for construction management. They have a career fair with typically about 200 companies every year. So there's a lot of people, and there's definitely not 200 BIM majors. So for me, it's pretty easy to like walk up and be like, "Hey, I want a job," and they're like, "Oh, there's not too many of you." But for Purdue, it's like definitely we have a lot of career fairs. So we have the construction management one, if that would apply for you. Polytech has their own as well. And then we have tons of other ones throughout the year that you can go to. There's definitely a lot of engineering ones that you can also go to because a lot of those companies will still like accept all types of majors. So basically, I just go to as many career fairs as I can and just kind of get my name out there. And so this summer, we had a lot of ours online, which was a very different experience this year. It's weird not being able to walk up and shake someone's hand and you're just like wearing your sweatpants and it's really awkward. But I will be working in Chicago this year for a company called Power Construction. So it's just really working on your resume and then like going up to companies. Also, I don't know. I know for the CGT program, we have 2 classes we have to go through about just building our resume. So mostly during your freshman or sophomore year, you'll probably have a class about building your resume where they'll help you to build a good looking resume that will hopefully help you get more jobs. And we also have the CCO that can help do that as well.
Yeah, definitely want to talk about the CCO, Center for Career Opportunities, that helps all the students at Purdue with resume building, network opportunities, mock interview practice, those types of things to get you prepared to talk with recruiters about these opportunities at career fairs. And then Daniel, I think you have an internship coming up that you mentioned as well.
Yeah, so I'll be working with the world's largest airline this summer. It's called American Airlines, and it's actually a co-op. So co-op is basically, it stands for Cooperative Education Program. Cooperative Education Program. And you can understand it as basically an extended internship. So it's lasting around 6 months. So starting from June all the way to December. And I'll be down in Dallas, Texas, at their headquarters working for their technical operations team. And the way I found out about this internship is really going back to that club I mentioned before, the American Association of Airport Executives. I'm a pretty good friend of the student president of that club. I started talking with him, and he just gave me the info of his co-op coordinator. I sent him my resume a day later. They wanted to talk to me, get to know me, and a couple weeks later, scheduled an interview. And one day after the interview, they gave me the verbal offer. So it was a very quick process, and I'm looking forward to this co-op opportunity that I had. And I would say number one tip is to start networking right away once you come to Purdue, and internship opportunities will come to you.
No, that's really great. And actually, I'm glad you mentioned co-ops because we just got a question in the chat that I want to bring up. And do students tend to do co-ops or internships? And I think from at least from what I hear and what I see from Polytechnic students, most of our students are doing internships typically for the most part. And Daniel's a perfect example. You can do co-ops. Really any student at Purdue can, just a matter of going through the process and going and actually finding a company that's going to sponsor that co-op for you. But I'd say overall, the majority of Polytechnic students do traditional kind of summer internships, or as Trevor's kind of doing, she's doing that remotely right now while she's working on her classwork. So the different opportunities available for you. All right, and then Evan, for you, what kind of experiences have you had?
Yeah, I had an internship this past summer with Amazon. I don't know if you've heard of them. And so it was a software development internship. And it was really awesome just to be able to apply the concepts that I had learned just after like 1 year here at the Polytechnic, majoring in computer and information technology. I would have weekly like one-on-ones with my manager, and he would just ask about like all these classes that I had taken, and all of the skills that I had learned during that first year I definitely put to good use, especially during the last few weeks of my internship. My project was wrapping up, and I used a lot of knowledge from my systems analysis and design classes and my database classes to get all the documentation in order and really have a successful project at the end. And so I got a return offer for this coming summer. So if that doesn't tell you that the Polytechnic is doing something right, I don't know what does. Companies clearly love what we're teaching. They love that hands-on experience that we offer. And you have a degree backed by Purdue University. And so that name definitely carries some weight. And the experience that I had at Amazon was amazing to apply those skills. And then I also go to a lot of career fairs, even though I have that return offer already set up for next year, just to try and network and see what other careers or other companies are hiring, see what kind of job titles exist. We offer a lot of career fairs that are specific for my department. The Association of IT Professionals that I'm involved in hosts their own career fair. The Polytechnic also hosts a computing career fair. And then Purdue hosts a ton of career fairs. And so there's so many opportunities to network with these companies. Companies will come to campus and beg for like all of our students in the departments. And so there's definitely a high demand for Polytechnic students. And I think that's just an incredible thing to say about the program. You're not going to be searching for a job. You know, the job is going to come to you at this point, assuming you do your due diligence and go to these career fairs to try and network. Just want to throw that in as a disclaimer there.
Oh, sure. And Evan, actually have a follow-up. And are you going to be working at Amazon, like physically there this summer?
Yes.
So we have a question about how internship, like living experience or living expenses, might be covered potentially by a company if possible.
Yeah, and so I had a virtual internship this past summer because the world was in lockdown. And the good thing about technology is you're able to do a lot of that remotely. This coming summer, though, I am going in person in Seattle. Amazon gave me a living stipend. And so with that, I'm responsible for finding my own housing. And so I've been like on Facebook groups trying to find like college apartments that people are subletting. And then using that stipend that'll cover the cost of living. But it's different for every company. So you definitely want to make sure you do your research before you accept the internship.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I've heard of other ambassadors going to like San Francisco or Orlando. He's a construction management technology major, and he had all of his living expenses covered. They set him up with housing and travel and all that kind of stuff. But not every company is going to do that. So make sure you understand, you know, what they're offering and how that looks for you. All right, then Leah, you mentioned you have had some internships as well. What did you do?
Yeah, so my first internship was with the National Center for State Courts, and I was in Washington, D.C. And basically what they do is they're kind of affiliated with the government. So what they'll do is they'll have either countries or states who, you know, there's something wrong with their court system, maybe something needs to be looked over, and then they will tell us what they believe is wrong, and then we'll send them a proposal, and then based on our proposal, they'll decide if they would like us to fix it or someone else to fix it. And it was a really cool experience because it dealt a lot with law, and when I had that internship, I really only wanted to do law. So I was writing a lot of contracts, and, you know, doing a lot of research, but it had a lot of criminal elements to it, which I didn't appreciate until I started doing cybersecurity. So for that internship, you know, we were looking at the different ways in which, you know, they were trafficking drugs in the Caribbean and stuff, and the different channels of technology. But because it wasn't a technology internship, we didn't really focus on the different ways they did that technologically wise. And then this past December, I had a short internship. It lasted probably from December to the end of January, and it was in Jamaica, and it's called the Major Organized Crimes Agency, and it's basically the equivalent of, I'd say, like the FBI in Jamaica. And it was really cool because I got to see, you know, the real world application and how my previous internship coincided with this one, because this one, you know, we literally had, you know, the devices of criminals, and we were imaging them and, you know, sending them off to court, which was really nice. And that was a really cool experience because this semester I'm taking a cyber forensics class, and it's literally down to a T what I did in my internship. So I'm not saying the class is easy for me, but because of that internship, I definitely know what I'm doing, which is nice.
All right, excellent. Thanks. I mean, again, kind of going back to what I said before, whether you do the class before your internship or afterwards, you're still going to have that preparation for that real world experience. I think that's really important to keep in mind. And Trevor, what about yours? You have one right now, and I know you've done a couple of different internships in the past.
Yeah, so I have worked for a general contractor back in Fort Wayne, Indiana from summer after my sophomore or freshman year, summer after my sophomore year, Christmas break of my sophomore year, Christmas break of junior year, and now I'm doing a semester virtually for them. Yeah, they're pretty much my life plan at this point. Apparently was a discussion about they need to move facilities, and there was a discussion that Trevor needs an office. So I pretty much have a job lined up, which is fantastic. But my internship, I do estimating. So I figure out how much it's going to cost to build your building. I'm the person you don't like because I tell you how much you have to spend. And so what's really cool about it is my first summer, I learned how to do it. And then my second summer, I pretty much just had a supervisor that checked my work to make sure I didn't, make the company go bankrupt. But I won projects. Like, to be a junior in college, winning projects that are making money for my company, doing things that literally one of my coworkers said took him 3 years after graduating to be able to do. And then to do that in the summertime and, like Leah said, come back and I sit down in class one day and they're like, okay, we're going to learn how to use this. And I'm like, I know way more than you even know because I spent 2 summers running the software. I just wrote for my company the steps by steps on how to train someone on using that software. So we're getting real life experience and it's absolutely amazing. And we have 2 career fairs for construction management alone. And like Claire said, over 200 companies come, and I have literally seen the University of Minnesota bus in their students to the Purdue Career Fair because at least if they're at the Purdue Career Fair, they stand a better chance. I've walked by companies before and someone grabbed me and they were like, "Do you need an internship?" And it's like, "No, I'm good. Thank you very much." So there's so many opportunities, and people just because you have the Purdue name to you, they just want it. And then adding the Polytechnic, the way we teach, just makes it so much more valuable.
That is really cool to hear. Thanks, Trevor, for sharing that. And one thing I do want to point out, we talked about internships and co-ops and things that are happening while you're still here. But when you go to those career fairs, when you get towards the end of your degree, their recruiters are recruiting students who are about to graduate and looking to hire you for that full-time job once you're done with your degree. So it's about internships, it's about co-ops, and it's about what's your next step after graduation as well when you go to those career fairs. All right, so we got a couple more questions I want to ask. The first, which is hopefully a little more fun, just kind of give me the sense of, give me a really fun story or experience that you've had here at Purdue that just you think is everybody at home watching needs to know, that's something that was just so much fun, so awesome that you can share with us. So Jacob, I'm going to start with you because you're about to graduate. So I know you've had almost four full years here. Tough to come down to one, I'm sure.
Yeah, man, it's hard to think of that one on the fly. There's so much to do with it being a Big Ten campus. You got 40,000 people plus, and then you've got your smaller within the 40,000 of Purdue. Then you've got the Polytechnic, and then for me, I have School of Aviation, and then within that, my major. So there's a lot of breakdowns, and there's a lot of different things you can do within those steps. I would say maybe one of the things I really enjoyed was going to the basketball, football, volleyball games, the Big Ten sports. That was kind of one of the things for me. Was I wasn't really interested in having a huge school, but then at the same time, when I came here, I found that I could have the smaller school out at the airport and still have all the opportunities and experiences and things to do of the big school. So I'm going to stick with Big Ten sports. Those are a lot of fun to go to.
All right, very nice. And then Claire, what about you? What's a really fun and good experience that you've had that you want to share?
I think just the connections that you can make. So I was interviewing for a internship with my dream company, and I mentioned I was in the Society of Women Engineers from Purdue, and they have a lot of Purdue grads, and she was like, "Oh, I used to be the secretary," and so although I didn't get the job, I, hope to work there full time next year. And so it's still oh, I can reach out to her and be like, "Hey, I just got your position. Like, I will be the next secretary. So, like, I'm kind of following in your footsteps. So, I think, like, all the different connections you can make is really cool. Like, even from your clubs, you know, if you're like, oh, I'm a Purdue graduating in something like construction, like, construction's a very social field. So, like, a lot of times, like, people will know you. Or, like, I had my professor, Clark Corey, he's a very social guy and knows a ton of people. So, a lot of people like recognize his name. So it's just really cool, like seeing, I think, outside what else there is to make connections. Like someone will notice you, even if like they don't necessarily know you, they might have a connection, even though Purdue's such a big place, it still happens and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to what we started with, like the community, the welcoming environment that we have here. It goes beyond that because once people graduate, they still want to come back and connect with our students, with our faculty and our staff here as well. All right, Daniel, being a freshman finishing up your first year, what would you say was one of your best experiences so far this first year you've had?
Yeah, so I would say working in dining courts is really fun. So this year we're putting like the food in containers, and usually working as a student, when I was a dining service associate last semester, when we used to close the lids, I used to be super fast at the lids, and the line would go super fast, and they would call me they would call me lid master, and I thought that was really really fun. It sounds a little bit weird, but definitely really fun.
Well, it seems like you might have earned that nickname then. Very nice. All right, and then Leah, what about yourself?
I would say because this is such a large school, but even though it is a large school, you still, get that small school experience within your majors. I've been able to make a lot of friends from a lot of different majors, and because of that, they're from all over the place. So I'm gonna have to go with all the food I've been able to try because I've made so many different friends. A couple of days ago, I had Indian food. It was like dal, and my roommate made it, and it was really nice. And then like the week before that, I had empanadas, and because I have this like Hispanic friend, and it's so nice to be surrounded by so many different people, and to know that regardless of where you're from, your experience is valued and as important as in-state and out-of-state students. I really appreciate the fact that Purdue stresses that we're all the same no matter where we come from, and I think they show that through how many international students they really do admit. I think they put the same amount of focus on international and national students, which is nice. So I've been able to meet so many different people, even Indiana people. I learned how to play Yuko. I don't really know the point of that game, to be honest, but I mean, now I know how to play it. So it's just so nice to be surrounded by so many different people from so many different places. So that's probably my all-around encompassing experience.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point there. There's a very large international student population, and you mentioned the cultural centers that we have here on campus. And yeah, euchre, if you're not familiar with the game, get familiar because it's an awesome card game for sure. All right, and then Evan, what about you?
Oh, it is so hard to choose just one. I've had so many fun memories just in my almost 2 years here now. One that comes to mind in particular, every Sunday night, my friend group, all the residence halls have kitchenettes. And so every Sunday night, my friend group would take the bus to Walmart, get a bunch of groceries, and then try and cook a big meal. And if I could describe it in one word, it would be absolute chaos. None of us really knew how to cook, and so it was like 10 people in a little tiny kitchen room, all trying to make something that won't like poison us all. And so it was a fun opportunity, and then through that we got to like meet more people on our floor. We're like, hey, we're cooking dinner downstairs, like you should come join us. And then after we would eat, we would go back up into someone's dorm room. This is all pre-COVID, of course. And then watch like a movie at night. One time we watched a scary movie, I say, and then we were so scared to go back to our own dorm rooms that we had to watch a Disney movie afterwards to kind of like make us all feel better. And so opportunities like that happen all the time. You know, it's a great place to find friends, find community. Everyone is so welcoming, so nice. Like you can sit down in a class, turn to your left, turn to your right, say hello, and then those two people are going to be your support system for that class for the rest of the year. It's just a great place to to find that sense of belonging that I think is important as you go into a place where you're going to live for the next 4 years. You're not just taking classes, you're going to live here. And so that sense of belonging is amazing.
I think that's a good point. Certainly academics is important and going to class and doing your work, all that good stuff. But yeah, this is 4 years of living a fun, crazy experience. So yeah, definitely finding that community, that belonging is really important. Nice point, Evan. And then Trevor, what about for you?
Yeah, I think mine probably has to do with the fact that we live here. This is our entire lives. It's not just school. Like we go to class for I don't know. For me, it's like 4 hours a day, but other people it's more. I'm blessed with that. And so like what do we do for the rest of our time? We make friends. We do things, and I think the best thing that I love, or the greatest experience I've had, is that we're just big kids. Like you literally have set loose late teenagers, early 20-year-olds loose on a town, and most of us, our parents are helping us, or we have jobs to get us by or whatever. Like you just let us loose, and there's morph suit guys that dance around on campus listening to music on Friday, and we don't look at them any different. We're just like, cool, those morph suit guys. The first day of snow, like there could be literally a half inch, and kids are out there trying to sled on cardboard. Like it's just, that's who we are. And like the first day that it's nice out, everyone goes out with their little like trampolines ball game, whatever that thing is, and they're all doing that, or they're sun tanning. And I love that, like I walk around and I see that like we're people living here. We're all doing an active thing to try and get these degrees, but we're also living a life. And I think it's awesome and amazing that I get to spend 4 years just like discovering who I am and living my life however the heck I want. And I think that's my favorite part about it.
Trevor, I don't know if I could say that better myself, and I think that might be a good place to end our discussion tonight. Got some good advice in there in terms of getting connected, finding your belonging, and yeah, just enjoying the experience, living your life here at Purdue. So thank you all very much for that great information, great insight. So yeah, that wraps up our discussion tonight. Thank you again to our viewers for joining us, and I hope you got some good information into the experiences our students have had. I think Jacob actually just shared a link into the chat for our student ambassadors. So if you want to reach out to other students who are in your major that are ambassadors, feel free to reach out to them as well. We just want to say thank you to our panelists for sharing all the information and experiences they've had so far, and John, our technical director, for all the work he's done behind the scenes here. You can send us an email to techrecruit@purdue.edu if we did not get to your question tonight. So please send us an email. Let us know how we can help you out. If you haven't already joined us for one of our admitted student information sessions, we still have two more of those coming up, and actually one is this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find that information session, how to register for it, and other opportunities to engage with us on our admitted student site. You can also watch this broadcast again by going to polytechnic.purdue.edu/live. So on that same page, you will find a list of replays and earlier broadcasts sorted by topic, so academic or student life or certain population targets, those types of things. So take a look at those previous broadcasts to get a good sense of what's going on in all of our different areas here at the Polytechnic. And just a quick reminder, your deadline to accept your offer of admission is May 1st. So that's about 2.5 weeks away. So if you have some other questions, please reach out to us. Let us know how we can help. But again, thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of your evening, and boiler up.